Welcome back to Let's Play Darkest Dungeon. I'm your host, Timepants. I am back after a little bit of time away. I probably should not have tried to revive the channel at the very end of the year. Things got pretty busy. I should have just expected that with end of the year stuff. But on top of that, I had like a family member go into hospice and a funeral after that, and that obviously kind of took my time away from everything. And I got promoted again at work, which was nice. That just happened a week ago. So things are finally normalizing again, and let's get going.
Mercifully, the morbid encounter resolved itself in my favor, and I set to work pursuing degeneracy in its most decadent forms. The air pulsed with anticipation as I revealed the unnatural terroir of the house vintage. But my exultation was cut short as the attending gentry turned upon themselves in an orgy of indescribable frenzy. A single drop of that forbidden tannin gifted me with a dizzying glimpse of the hibernating horror beneath my feet, and in that moment, I understood the terrible truth of the world. I stood reborn, molded by newfound knowledge, my head throbbing to the growing wine of winged vermin come to drink the tainted blood of the darkest dungeon.
All right, that was pretty intense. So yeah, actually a lot of like a heavy lore drop there, and that's probably the most gruesome cutscene in the game by a wide margin, I would say.
Even my untethered imagination dares not conceive of what effect the years spent submerged in toxic sludge may have had on her heteromorphic flesh.
All right, so yeah, few takeaways from that. So first and foremost, I guess the Ancestor was first driven insane by imbibing, what did he say, a single drop of the Countess's blood. So I guess anything more than that, and you just go completely batfuck and start eating yourself, which is actually a lot more horrifying than eating other people, I would say. Of course, the Ancestor's rockin' ass is probably the most significant, like lore-wise, in terms of what we got out of that. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, the single drop gives you like profound insight. So a bit more into the origin story of the Ancestor. Red Hook has slowly but surely been coming out with all of these comics, that have backstories of the various cast members, and those have all been really cool to watch as they've been released. I think the most recently released comic was for the Plague Doctor, and I have to say, like, the more that I use the Plague Doctor, obviously not using it in this party, this is my expeditionary force, which is so well suited to, so well suited to the Courtyard. I think I will always default back to this group. I think I'll always default back to this group if I'm at all concerned or if I lose my confidence. But I would like to. I would like to try, obviously, some other party compositions while we work our way through here. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so yeah, I love the Plague Doctor mostly because she is most mad scientists in fiction are portrayed as either mad geniuses, insane geniuses who use their power or use their knowledge of science, their inventions, their experiments to try and sort of exert their will upon the world. Or to pervert it or destroy it in some way. Basically, it's it's a power play. And if they're not, this sort of malevolent mad scientist, then they're sort of they're kind of a bumbling idiot who has either like a knack, if not necessarily a proficiency with the scientific method. Their inventions like kind of backfire hilariously, but they also work surprisingly well, right? Your Hubert Farnsworths, if you will, as opposed to, say, a Dr. Frankenstein from the first sort of mad scientist trope. But I like the Plague Doctor because, like, she's got a basic, like, it seems like she's got a basic grasp on what works, and rather than, like, attempt the scientific method, like, scaffolding it off of, like, existing branches of research, the sort of the character that they've given her, especially in the comic, is just basically, well, science can be anything, and it can happen anytime, anywhere. So I will just randomly keep combining things, and eventually something, like one of my experiments, is going to bear fruit. I just fucking love that. There doesn't really seem to be any kind of method to her madness. Like, basically her MO is, I'm just gonna keep trying stuff, and let's see what happens. Like, I imagine somebody like comes in, they're like, I have a fever and like a really bad cough and a runny nose. She's like, okay, stick this jar of peanut butter up your ass. And they're like, what? Like, yes, I have my notes here. I'm going to document everything. We're going to try and treat your symptoms. I just need you to stick this jar of peanut butter up your ass. So you want me to just, like, scoop a bunch of peanut butter out of the jar and cram it up my ass? I'm sorry, did I say to put peanut butter up your butthole, or did I say to put this jar of peanut butter up your ass? That's right. And that didn't work? Oh well. When the next patient comes in, we'll try something else. What else? I don't know. Whatever comes to mind. Like, I kind of like that. That's awesome. And I think that's a really unique take on sort of the mad scientist. I guess I haven't really seen anything like that anywhere else in fiction or anything else that comes to mind. One of the other sort of frustrating things, and one of the things that kind of kept me from coming back, is I actually had before the whole holiday season, and got busy with family and job stuff and everything like that. I had 2 episodes recorded, ready to go, sort of as an intermezzo after the big boss fight that we just finished. And there was no sound, like, at all. There's no, like, in total, it was about 2 episodes totaling a little under an hour and a half. No sound, no game sound, no voice recording, like, nothing at all. And between that and just the Crimson Court DLC not really 100% being, like, my favorite thing that Red Hook has done with the game, I felt a little bit defeated. And so, yeah, when things finally resolved themselves, the holiday season come and gone, the promotion I was going for coming through, it was a little hard to get the momentum back up and try and come back at it. But I am committed to continuing the series. So, I do apologize, and just stick with me. I am going to be doing more recordings here today, so I'll have sort of a backlog built up, ready to go. So how is this run going? Gee, it's a hellion occultist, bounty hunter, and houndmaster. How do you think it's going? Yeah, really, 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 really well. Like, insanely, amazingly well. Just, this party has, I mean, okay, sure, admittedly, like, the bounty hunter looking a little rough around the edges right now, a little worse for wear, but, oh, that bleed would have been so nice. And I think we just have to take the kill. Oh, man, that would have been a good bleed to get. But yeah, this party is so well... Okay, so... Sackerville, I like you. But this isn't working. The whole, you healing for 0 thing, that's not working for me right now. We're gonna have to fix that.
Brought low and driven into the
Yeah, this is really, really good though. And yeah, I think this party is well suited to this, yeah, this particular dungeon. I think a Vestal is also a perfectly valid choice for a healer. I do think that this particular dungeon does demand a dedicated healer, either an occultist or a Vestal. We've tried running with an antiquarian and with an arbalist as our dedicated healer. That does not work. No, sir, that does not work one bit. So that's really annoying. Hold on. Okay, who in this party has Crimson Curse? Okay, just our Houndmaster. That's good. But yeah, this party has everything that you need to dominate the Crimson Court. The Courtyard. I do think that this particular dungeon, perhaps, as a matter of fact, I would say yes. More than any other, I think this dungeon requires a high damage output to excel. I mean, obviously, it's always a plus, but in other dungeons, like, yeah, the Ruins, Warrens, Weald, there are a handful of monsters that are, concerning. Those are ones that you want to definitely have some... You want to have some sort of solution in mind for when you're designing your party. So like the Swinotar, or like the really, really big skeleton dude that can like ground pound and do like a full party stun on you, that sort of thing. Yeah, you definitely want to be mindful when constructing your party of those sorts of encounters. The Spore Giant in the Weald, actually, I would say that the crab is, like, the giant enemy crab is probably, of all the double wide enemies in the game, probably the least intimidating. But yeah, for the Cove, I think you still need damage, just because, yeah, you still need at least moderate damage output, because bleed, which tends to be the more reliable dot that you can apply, I think that, yeah, since that's not as much of an option, you definitely have to... Oh, I was so worried we got ambushed. I was like, what? Yeah, you definitely have to at least, have that in mind. But here, damage output isn't so much, like, having high damage output isn't so much to, plan around specific encounters, specific monsters should they show up in a random encounter. This is simply to thin the enemy numbers, like, as quickly as possible. Like, okay, so just looking at all of these enemies, we have one guy who can drop a guard, which is, or not drop your guard, but he can apply guard to another, to like another monster in his party, along with having innately high dodge. Pretty much everything here seems to have like protection. I don't think the I don't think the like mosquito butler does, but I think everything else does. Ugh. So yeah, I mean, obviously if your damage isn't up to snuff, that protection is just going to eat into it even more. And yeah, just this is just if you finish the first round and you still have 4 enemies all bearing down on you, the fact that they can apply, like, pretty much every enemy can apply Crimson Curse. Pretty much every enemy has either high damage, stun, or like some sort of deleterious debuff, something like applying horror to your entire party, or hitting 2 party members with stun, or some sort of high stress, like full party high stress attack. Skewering repartee is like the worst thing that can happen in a person's life. Like, all of these, like, if you have 4 enemies that you're still fighting by the second round and they all have a chance to act, they are going to fuck your life up. It's gonna be real bad to have to, deal with all of these terrible things coming your way all at once, potentially for 2 rounds. So, yeah, if you're not able to cut down enemy numbers, like in very short order, I think that this can be, like, without question, the hardest dungeon in the game. Like, I don't think that there's probably a lot of debate about that, but I think it can feel disproportionately harder if you don't come in here with like a party and trinket loadout kind of designed around the idea of dropping 1 or 2 enemies as quickly as possible, like within the first round. Crowd control is obviously good, but since, I mean, it's been like a year now that this has been the case. That's a lot. That's a lot of bleed. Yeah, it's been about a year now that this has been the case, but since Red Hook changed stun, so it is very difficult to chain, because an enemy coming out of stun gets 1 round of stun protection, basically. It's become much more difficult to just rely on crowd control. Really, the best crowd control is if there's no more crowd. So, yeah, if you can turn that crowd into a couple, then that's a lot better than 1 round of relief that you would get from stun. I mean, obviously that's not always possible. That's why stuff like stun exists, but like this fight in particular, this encounter is exactly what I'm talking about. You have an enemy in front that's able to do a lot of, that was perfect, able to do a lot of stun, or sorry, not a lot of stun, a lot of stress. It has the ability to heal itself. It can inflict bleed. Yeah, you have in the second rank an enemy that can apply protection. He's also got like a stun, or why do I keep saying that? A stress attack, which sucks, but that's, I mean, he's, of these 4 enemies, the least obnoxious, but yeah, still definitely one that you want to place a high priority on eliminating. In the third rank, like I said, skewering repartee it's the worst. It's awful. It's a terrible thing to have happen to you. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And in the back rank, she can shuffle her ranks. She can apply horror. I think she has a full party buff that is at least plus damage, and it might be more than that, like plus crit also. I forget, but god damn, Sackerville. Oh my god, that is pathetic. That is really bad. Yeah, we might be bringing a Vestal next time.
This expedition at least promises success.
Okay. But I mean, disappointment aside, Sackerville, this party looks like it could go forever. Like, holy shit, our health is still really good. Okay, not having shovels obviously kind of changes my outlook, but our stress is low. I do remember that when the Crimson Court DLC first came out, people were very concerned with how much stress the Courtyard was capable of inflicting on your party. I don't know if too many changes have been made to just exactly how much stress enemies are able to output. I mean, one of the things to consider is you do have a lot of walking to contend with, so pretty much every step you run the risk of at least one party member taking, you're seeing this as I'm walking, sort of this background radiation of stress that that adventuring always has on your party. Now, obviously, they're getting ticked like 1 stress. I think in any other dungeon, it gets ticked at, is it like 3? Is it like 8? Something like that? I forget. I don't think it's that high. But with so much walking and so much backtracking, I mean, that's obviously a big concern, is just exactly how do you manage just this constant deluge, or not deluge, but this constant trickle, sort of the opposite of a deluge, really, a luge. This constant stream of stress that you're getting. In addition, you are fighting enemies that, I mean, many types that you encounter do have at least one way to stress you out. Plus, a longer dungeon crawl means that you're going to take more crits, so that's more stress. And yeah, people really sort of looked at it and thought, holy shit, this is way too hard. Like, this is just, it's too much stress for my party to deal with. And you can see that we've kind of taken some precautions here to try and mitigate that. It's not that I don't have any trinkets that don't apply stress. The Heaven's Hairpin is actually there to mitigate it. The eyeball trinket that the Houndmaster has mitigates the stress that he gets from that candle. I think that's really the key, is if you do load up on trinkets that that only, or if you load up on trinkets that apply stress without counterbalancing it, I think this dungeon is how pissed am I about that? Pretty, yeah. I'd say pretty pissed. But yeah, if you don't if you don't try and offset some of the additional stress that some of the better trinkets come with as sort of a drawback, I think this can be really tough. But if you do play sort of prophylactically, by which I mean if you wear a condom while you're playing Darkest Dungeon, in the Courtyard, you obviously don't need to wear it for like the ruins. But yeah, as long as you're wearing a condom while you play in the Crimson Court content, you don't really need to worry about the stress so much. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. But yeah, as long as you are... That is just a dandy move, isn't it? Like holding up his handkerchief like that while he takes a shot at you. That is classy. Yeah, as long as you have taken some measures to sort of offset the offset some of the better trinkets that you probably do need to equip for for a successful Courtyard run. I don't think it's as bad as it was initially made out to be. Basically, we just had to learn how to play. And case in point, like, fucking look at this. Our party health still hovering around like 80% average, maybe even a little higher. Stress, nobody over like 20. This is such a good party. And I mean, obviously it's not just such a good party for this particular dungeon. It's just a great party. Just in general, I would put this as one of the strongest in the game. Somebody suggested that we try a party of, let me see if I remember, I think it was Leper, Flagellant, Crusader, and Vestal. I think that's right. And they said, try that one in the Courtyard. So yes, next Courtyard run, I think we're going to try that. I of course need to double check. It's been a while since the suggestion was made. I actually did make a recording of that party in December, but that was one that had no sound, so I did have to scrap that. I mean, on a couple, well, I guess on one occasion, I have gone back in post-production and like done the audio myself, just dubbing over a previous run, but that's not really something I want to get in the habit of doing. But yeah, we're definitely going to feature a run with that party composition. I mean, the damage output sounds fucking insane. It's tanky as shit. The only thing that concerns me is I feel like you don't really have a lot of back row reach. You can't really reach out and touch the 3rd and 4th ranks, which do tend to harbor some of the more dangerous enemies that you encounter. Ranks 1 and 2 tend to be loaded up with sort of your damage sponges. They tend to use like physical attacks, which are kind of the easiest thing to deal with. Like HP damage really isn't that big of a concern as long as you have a dedicated healer, and with a Vestal we'd have that covered. Now, I say that, but my party is now in the throes of a pretty horrible death spiral here. That was not the crit heal that we needed. Well, yeah, nothing for it. We gotta get out of this fight. That was really bad. That was awful. That was just terrible. I think the game was trying to send a message there. Thanks, game.
A moment of respite.
Message received, loud and clear. Don't talk shit about how great of a Darkest Dungeon player I am. I know. I'm sorry. Because I'm not. But that said, I think that this party is also better equipped to rebound than most parties out there. Again, obviously a Vestal would be a more stable source of healing. Not having a Vestal does kind of suck in that respect, and the Occultist has been consistently inconsistent throughout our run here. But that said, I mean, our HP now is, a little over 60% on average across the board here. That's good. Stress is still a non-factor, and it's actually hard for me to imagine a scenario from this point where we run into stress as being like a primary concern. I'm sure it could happen because this game loves to just say, "Oh, you think I can't fuck you? Hold my beer." But yeah, I don't really see, like, no matter what happens, no matter how this particular run ends, or no matter how it goes from here, I don't foresee stress being the reason that we leave. Probably it's going to be that we run out of food, or like the recording goes on for like an hour, and I'm just like, well, I don't want to keep you here all night. And we cut it at that point. But I mean, Jesus, this is a solid party. It's real good, and I'm trying to be very cognizant, very aware that seeing the same party run the same dungeon over and over again is boring as shit. So don't worry, I'll allay your fears right now. Huh? Well, that's annoying. Yeah, you don't have to worry about seeing this party running through the dungeon every time, but it is nice to kind of get your sea legs back with a very solid party composition. So that's just what we're doing here. So while we're on the subject of celebrities, I just want to ask everybody listening if they would be willing to be a part. That's annoying. If they'd be willing to take part in sort of an ongoing experiment that I've had. I guess it's been, when I graduate college is 2006. So about 14 years now. So my experiment is this, and thus far I have a 100% success rate. Obviously, I need, for an experiment to be valid, for your findings to be considered suitably scientific, your experiment must be repeatable outside of lab conditions. So I'm now sharing this with all of you, so please, I want you to address this with the seriousness and decorum that it deserves. So if somebody ever asks you, hey, just kind of as a joke, hey, whatever happened to celebrity you haven't heard from in a while? For example, Brendan Fraser. Hey, whatever happened to Brendan Fraser? You can't really miss too much of a beat here. You should think back for a second and be like, oh, didn't you hear he died in like a single-engine plane crash? Single-engine plane crash is the most believable cause of death for somebody who ever enjoyed celebrity status at some point in their career. It sticks in the mind as, yeah, I've heard of celebrities dying of this before. I don't remember that it being the cause of death of this particular celebrity, but it's not an entirely unbelievable cause of death. So yes, this falls, sort of within the confidence interval that you'd expect for sort of the general population. I have never had anybody dispute me when I've given that as an answer. And I mean, think of all the celebrities that this has happened to. Alicia Silverstone, Amanda Peet, the Goo Goo Dolls. Did you believe me? Did anybody actually believe me? Like, fess up. Did you think Amanda Peet died from in a single engine plane crash? So believable, right? When will science find a cure for the single engine plane crash? So, go out there. I mean, obviously, you can set up the situation if you want, but if you're in control, if you're like, hey, did you hear that X celebrity died of plane crash-itis? Obviously, it's a little bit less believable because you broached the topic of conversation. But if somebody asks you and you give this answer, 100%. 100% success rate. I want you to just confirm this for me. So you're all, lab assistants in this ongoing experiment of mine. So, welcome to the team. It's good having you. We do have casual Fridays, team meeting Thursdays, about 4:30 p.m., just before we go. But yeah, let me know. What the hell am I talking about here? Like, this is what happens when you get a run that's too good. Like, this is so good. Jesus. Oh, I fucking jumped. Like, my wife just came back home. Like, I heard the door open. I was like, oh my god, I'm about to be murdered by single engine plane crash. But no, just my loving wife. I was about to say that, yeah, it looks like this particular run is going to come to a close due to lack of food, but that is clearly no longer the case. Like, I think this party could go the distance. I'm not gonna, because that seems real boring. But yeah, this is a good team. Let's see. So I think I'll explore this wing, maybe check out that locked door, and then maybe we'll call it, because yeah, we're up at we're over 35 minutes at this point. So yeah, no sense dragging it out, because I have absolutely no intention of trying to down the Crimson Court 4 in one run. That sounds like fucking purgatory to me. So yeah, let's kind of think of a stopping point here. I'm trying to think if I should go ahead and clear out like the upper branch there, since that might be a pain in the ass to backtrack to, but I might just do that just on my own time, and we'll start the run like with me having backtracked all the way up there. But I don't know, like, that's annoying. I mean, what are we gonna do? Like, this particular encounter doesn't really scare me that much. It's just 3 enemies, so it's not too bad at all. Now, if they had like shuffled our ranks as part of an ambush, that would have been bad, because yeah, even though there are only 3 of them, they still definitely could have fucked us up plenty bad. That Velveteen Dandy Fop in the 3rd rank, yeah, skewering repartee is something that he can always hurt you with. I think he's also got, yeah, in addition to that pistol shot, I'm trying to think. I feel like he's got something else. Maybe he has the full party buff? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. A dizzying fall. Yeah, I'm getting a little tired of the traps. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Where's like a decent place to end it? Okay. Well, we'll keep going a little longer and see if we can find sort of a logical stopping point. But yeah, I actually didn't realize that there were just like encounters besides that ambush where you could potentially just run into 3 enemies. That's interesting. Maybe they thought that because this is such a long dungeon, that adding enemy compositions into the mix that do have just 3 enemies maybe makes it a little bit more manageable, a little bit more fair, just sort of when taken as a whole. Because, gosh, I mean, how many encounters have we had just with this run right now?
is
I
it
was
merely
hoping for like a
trick of the light?
treasure, like a good treasure of some kind. No, that's all right. I'll just take regular, common trinkets that you can get anywhere at the beginning of the game. That's fine. No, that's good. But yeah, I mean, like, look at this. We really don't have to stop. Like, there's absolutely, yeah, there's nothing here that's really
Packs laden with loot.
really challenged us. We are going to max out our hit points. Nobody has more than 20 stress. This is a really just all-around solid party. We have enough of the blue to keep us satisfied. So yeah, we don't have to worry about anybody wasting away or anything like that. Yeah, I don't think we've solved Darkest Dungeon, but holy shit, this is a really, really, really good party. So one of the things that kind of piqued my curiosity when somebody in the comments suggested that we try that party with the leper, flagellant, and crusader and vestal, that kind of got me thinking about sort of a party composition that I've wanted to try, or rather a party concept that I've wanted to try for a while. And basically, I want a party that's built around the strengths of the Plague Doctor. So I'd like to work her into more party compositions, because I like her as a character, but yeah, I also think that she's got really strong stuff, and I've never really maximized it. Like, her blinding powder is so good that I think I focus so much on using that, I don't really make use of some of her other stuff that's really good. She's got a standard melee attack that I think hits... Yeah, she can do it from rank 3, and I think it can hit rank 1, 2, and 3 and apply bleed, which is something that nobody else's like standard attack can do. She's got tons of like blight. She has she has the ability to buff up other party members. So yeah, like, she's Scottie Pippen basically in Darkest Dungeon terms. So let's build a team around Scottie Pippen. You know, Michael Jordan, which in this analogy is obviously the Hellion, he took a season off for his very storied baseball career, and they had to build the team around Pippen. We can do that. You know, this is going to be our, is that 1995? Is that right? I want to say 1994. Chicago Bulls season. So we're okay, so here's the limitations. No Hellion, and we must have the Plague Doctor as a party member. Dennis Rodman in this analogy, flagellant, like, no question. Jester, what? Come on, Timepants. Yeah, okay. Doesn't necessarily have to have a Jester in it, but if you want to reach for the brass ring, that would be pretty cool. So yes, let's make a party that's like built around the strengths of the Plague Doctor. You know, debuffs, not debuffs, applying blight, buffing the party, you know, curing poison if necessary, or curing bleed if necessary, and no Hellion. Like, I think that's tricky, and I'd kind of like to do it. Like, the problem is, if you don't have the Hellion, and if you have a Plague Doctor, then I feel like damage is going to be at a bit of a premium if you have a healer in that party, right? Like, if you have a Plague Doctor and a Vestal, you really only have 2 damage-dealing classes. Yeah, I'm just going to stop, because this party, like, it really could run forever. So, yeah, I think this is going to be tricky, but I think it's going to be really rewarding. So, give me your ideas for a Plague Doctor-focused party.
Not with the cost of this
No
crusade.
Hellions.
It's no
Other than that, yeah,
in your choice of
I will see you next time. Yeah, thanks for watching.